How's everyone doing? Wait, hold on.
Hey, everybody.
Where's my daughter? Daughter, how are you doing? Okay, my daughter's sitting there and she's very excited. Okay, so we have a kind of a special thing. We're going to be doing a podcast at the same time. So, Josh, where's our middle camera? Here we are. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Darren and Josh Make a Movie. My name is Darren, and this is
Josh Stolberg.
This is going to be a little bit different from a normal podcast because we're going to be doing it here live at the LA HorrorCon. Josh, would you like to?
Yeah, I want to introduce, usually on our show, we're making a show called Darren and Josh Make a Movie, and we are taking the audience, viewers, through the inception, pre-production, casting, production, post-production, all the way to the red carpet premiere of a brand new horror film. The show has been going for about 2 months, and we're just about to pick our final idea that we're going to start in pre-production for. And we are really excited to share for emerging filmmakers and horror lovers an opportunity to kind of see
You get to see behind the scenes of what it takes to make a movie like a Saw film, warts and all.
Yes. So I'm just going to say this now, just so we don't have to deal with it later. After the show, everyone here on stage will be over there. We've got some free posters for some of the Saw movies and a couple of other things. And they're free. All you have to do is just sign up and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So come on over and say hi. All right, so now without further ado, I want to introduce the moderator for today. His name is Joe Russo. He directed The Avengers.
Wrong Joe Russo.
Oh, wrong Joe Russo. Sorry. No, this is my buddy Joe Russo, and he's amazing. He was the main, like the interviewer moderator for an amazing podcast that went on for years called Postmortem with Mick Garris, and if you haven't seen it, you got to track it down. It's amazing. He's incredible. Joe Russo, come on up, buddy.
Hi, guys. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Hi, LA HorrorCon. All right. That sounds good.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you need me to reintroduce you two?
No,
for the show?
no. Let's just
I
get.
would
There's
like
a lot
you
of
to
people here.
introduce me one more time, but not Darren.
Wait, everyone. If you listen to the podcast, you'll understand this is a gut pillow. I put it here to block my gut, so you can get one yourself too. All right.
Okay, so also on the panel, I'm just going to go by in the order I see them in. Peter Spierig, the director of Jigsaw.
Yeah.
Peter. Let's go with Kevin. I'm going to butcher his last name.
Gruetert.
There we go. So, Kevin Gruetert, the director of Saw 6, Saw 3D, and of course, Saw X.
Yeah.
Hello.
And no director is complete without his director of photography, so let's bring up Nick Matthews, the DP of Saw X.
Woo.
Yeah.
And last but certainly not least, the man who has written more Saw films than anyone, Patrick Melton.
Patrick.
Yeah.
All right. Hi, guys.
Hey,
so
Joe.
when Josh asked me to do this panel, I said yes immediately because why wouldn't you? You guys are all amazing. But then I quickly realized that this panel in and of itself is a Saw trap because between these men, they have made all 10 Saw movies. So to try to survive this trap, I think I've decided to kind of break this questions up into essentially 3 eras. There is the first era, which Kevin and Darren are a part of, Saw 1, 2, and 3. Then there's the Patrick Melton years, and then there's the Josh Stolberg years. So let's do it, yeah?
Yep.
All right. So I want to go to Kevin first because Kevin is on stage the person who was with the Saw franchise the longest. So if you don't know, Kevin edited almost all of the Saw movies.
And the ones he didn't edit, he still helped out with.
It came in.
I did some editing on each one, yes.
Just some. But you did the first one, and I just wanted to say, like, so how did you, working with James, working with Lee, how did you come to get involved with the first movie?
Well, one of the producers of Saw 1 was a Disney guy, and as an assistant editor, I was a Disney guy. So he's actually the one that brought me on and introduced me to James. So we did a bunch of kids' movies together and worked with a kid named James Wan.
Amazing. And obviously, their short film kind of had such a distinctive editorial style. So how did you work with James to kind of bring that to life in the edit on the first movie?
Well, we had 3 weeks to edit the film from when he finished shooting, which is kind of unheard of. If you talk to any filmmaker about a 3-week post-production period, they won't understand what you're saying because it doesn't make any sense. But our producers weren't that experienced and realized that it costs money by the week to pay for people to edit. Anyways, we had to basically just spend what became 5 weeks, thanks to help from Carrie Elwes, to put the movie together. And James shot the footage with a good sense towards how we wanted it made. And the short film was, in essence, the Amanda head trap. And so he shot it with the kind of footage you would shoot for a very kinetic music video. And we put the film in a blender and got what we got and put it out there.
Amazing, and you guys succeeded. It went to Sundance.
That's right. Yeah, Sundance was when we realized we actually had something on our hands, and that was 4 months after we started shooting. 2 days less than 4 months after we began shooting, we had the cut negative and the final film.
Okay, so one last editing question from the first movie, because I think it'll carry over into the rest. But what sort of templates did you stumble upon while editing that you took into the subsequent installments, and when you started directing?
Well, for sure, James and I had a philosophy of never be boring, and we're very conscious, I think maybe more so than filmmakers sometimes are, to really evaluate every frame of the movie and make sure that there was nothing fat, and to really think about where the audience's attention was at any given time, and think about ways to make sure that they were paying attention. And I think we took that philosophy to heart when I started working with a spaz named Darren Bousman on Saw 2, and Darren even more so wanted to crank it all up to 11, and was constantly just encouraging me to continue to develop a very, very kinetic style where the editing itself is a graphic element and not just a storytelling element.
So that leads me into one of my next questions, which was, what was it like when you two started collaborating? Because Darren, you're stepping into the shoes of a franchise that you are now taking over, and you're using a lot of the same crew. You had David Armstrong carrying over as DP, you had Kevin carrying over as editor. What was that like plugging into that system?
I mean, listen, talk about imposter syndrome. I had directed a few really bad short films and terrible music videos. I had no idea what I was doing. And I think that David Armstrong and Kevin, I guess, was like a safety net. So in my incompetence, they took the nonsense that I was doing and made it look good. And I mean, the example that I always give on Saw 2 is one of my favorite traps was the hand trap where Addison puts her hand in the glass box. That did not look like that originally. I think Kevin saw the footage and was like, this is terrible. And he ended up being like, well, let's figure out what we can do with what you shot. And then ended up making what was literally a couple of flash frames and a push-in be what that scene was. And I realized at that point how integral and important editing was in the style of Saw. Because up to that point, it was just theory. It was in film school. I would hear about, oh, editors do this. But now seeing my mistakes and what I did not shoot to what Kevin was able to pull out of it. So I think those two guys and Charlie Clouser, it kept the DNA of what James did, because you had those three prominent voices that all were consistent.
That's awesome. Now, you have a really cool story as to how you came into the franchise, because you wrote a script that then was retrofitted into Saw 2. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was, at that time, the classic story you've heard a million times. I was a PA, I was living off ramen and grilled cheese sandwiches, and I started to watch my bank account dwindle, and it was going down, 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 and I was left with very little. And I realized that if I didn't do something big, I was going to end up back in Kansas City, where I'm from. And so I started to realize as an assistant on an agent's desk, the films that broke through were the ones that were bold and brash and ballsy. And I set out to write, in my opinion, what was the most offensive, upsetting, bold and brash script that I could. And this is the funny thing, is that when I started down this path, I had an idea for this thing called The Desperate, which was about my desperation in Hollywood. I didn't have the script finished, but I realized that how movies were getting bought or sold was on a board. It was like an assistance board. I had agents' assistants write fake coverage on a script that they had never read. I basically pitched them what the idea was, and they went on this being like, oh my God, we just read this script from this writer named James Luther. I made up a fake name, and it started getting traction and heat. And you could never do this today. Now you could just, go on ChatGPT and put bullshit through all my story. But I had a mailbox set up that you could call and leave messages, and all of a sudden, 1 week, I started getting messages. We heard about the script, The Desperate. We'd love to read it. We'd love to read it. And it made it real. That bullshit fake coverage became real, and it gave me, I guess, the confidence to finish the script. I finished the script, and I raised a couple $100,000 to make it independently. And the first guy that I met with was David Armstrong. And David Armstrong had just gotten off the Saw film. They'd just gone, I don't even know if you were at Sundance at that point. And David said, would you mind if I showed this script to the producers of this little movie I did called Saw? And I said, no, that's fine. David brought it to them. They ended up optioning it to make it as its own movie, The Desperate. And so up until that point, it was going to be made as their follow-up to Saw called The Desperate. Saw goes to Sundance, blows up at Sundance. They realize they have something. And Lionsgate said, we need another one of these, and we need it now. Not a year from now, we need it next Halloween. And so I think it was Oren that said, what if we took Darren's script, The Desperate, and made it Saw 2? And it was very similar in the way that it was one location, there was a twist, there was a serial killer. So I was then tasked at that point with taking The Desperate and trying to adapt it into Saw 2. And I did a couple passes on it, then they brought Lee in to Sawify it. So that's how that whole thing happened.
It's an incredible Cinderella story, and it really truly set the franchise up for success. One last question about The Desperate, just because I'm so curious, and I feel like I've never heard you get into it before. But was there anything when you had to sawify The Desperate that you missed, that you wished you could have done?
I mean, the truth is this: if I were to make The Desperate today, no one would compare it to Saw. It is so different. It is so vastly its own thing. The character names were the same, but that's about it. I was angry for about 48 hours when I knew that what was going to happen with it, until I got called into Lionsgate to see Saw. And this is before I saw a single trailer. It was before the hype train of Saw. And I sat in a theater and I had no idea what it was going to be. And I sat there, and like halfway through, I was with a friend of mine I brought, and he said, dude, this reads like your script. And he was right. It read like The Desperate. And when Jigsaw slid off the floor, I was like, holy shit, this is going to be huge. And at that point, any reservation that I had went away. I realized at that point, and I'm going to give you a funny James Wan story. On Saw 3, it was the only time I saw James on set. Saw 2 had come out, it opened #1, and James Wan shows up on Saw 3, and I'm leaning down, and James is looking at the video assist, and he looks over at me and goes, Darren, could you move over? You're standing on my coattails. And and that's what I felt like. I mean, with Saw 2, I was able to ride James Wan's coattails. He made a very successful film that paved the way for the next 9 of them after that.
Well, one thing that you did in Saw 2 that they didn't really get to do just by the nature of the first Saw was you got to explore who Tobin Bell's character, John Kramer, is. So how did you kind of figure that out on the page, figure that out with Tobin? Because really the DNA of that character starts in Saw 2.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest fights that I had. I had a huge fight on Saw 2 and a huge fight on Saw 3. Saw 2 was I wanted to capture Jigsaw on the first 10 pages. And I remember the fight, which was, where does the movie go at that point? And I said, that's exactly why we need to do it, is because as an audience member, if you're sitting there and it's captured, where can this story possibly go? And that made it interesting. In Saw 3, it was, we have to kill him. Where do you go if you kill him? It doesn't matter. That is what made Saw 1 in my mind so unique was it conveyed a lot of the cliches, and I was never able to guess where it was going to go next. So we wanted to do the same thing going into Saw 2. I wanted to, how do you keep the tension when you capture him on minute 10 of the movie?
Yeah.
So sorry, can I interrupt? I still
please, Kevin.
I still don't forgive you for killing Jigsaw, by the way.
I
It's made
did
our
complicate.
lives
He's
a lot
responsible.
harder.
Blame him.
So it's funny, Kevin. My next question was going to be actually to Patrick and Josh. Do you guys have anything you want to say to Darren for killing Jigsaw?
I mean, it's funny you said that, because I was just thinking, like, if you could go back, I don't know how you got the producers, Mark and Oren, or the studio to be like, yeah, let's kill them. This is a good idea. These are opening at like $30 million and #1 in the world, making $100 million. Let's kill the lead actor.
Well,
how did that go down? Like, seriously.
We had we had a ticking clock. In the same way that you had 4 months on Saw 1, we maybe had 6 months on Saw 2, and then 6 months on Saw 3, and then Saw 4 right after that. There wasn't a lot of time for chorus. Now there is. Now you get studio notes, and you have sometimes years in between the movies, and it could be rewritten 100 times. At that point, I think we had pushed it through, and I think it was if I remember correctly, there was always this idea we're going to shoot an alternate. We're going to have an alternate. Yeah, we'll shoot the alternate. We had no intention of shooting the alternate. And you know who ended up being the
Tobin had some ideas about an alternate.
Tobin was the most vocal, not wanting to do it. Tobin had an idea, if you remember, and he pitched it in Saw 4. He wanted to have a button on the bed that flipped the bed over and had his twin brother go down to shoot.
Yes, the twin brother, yes.
Yeah, so it was...
Still not explained, hasn't been explored yet.
I think, though, that to me that's why Saw works is that we're not precious with things like this. We are inventive as we go forward in ensuring that it has a life. But I think if we took the safe way out, Saw wouldn't be where it is right now.
You make a good point, because like the fact that you killed him, I mean, I think everyone was like, what? I mean, it was then given to us like, oh, I don't know, you guys figure it out. But like, it's like, what the fuck?
Well, so that actually gets me to my next question. Because
and Amanda's dead too, by the way. So,
yeah. But Patrick, you're coming off of a movie that I love, Feast, which is an incredible movie. If you guys haven't seen Feast, you should go check out Feast.
Thank you.
What lessons? Because obviously that's also kind of a contained pressure cooker horror movie, and a lot of Saw has that kind of similar DNA. Did it feel like a natural fit coming in? Like, what lessons did you take from Feast coming into Saw?
I mean, it was different in that there was so much pressure because it was such a big movie. I mean, but it was different because we had, like, Darren was coming on, and Darren had a lot of ideas on how to do it. He was very welcoming and, like, taking us through it. And then the studio had a lot of it. And it was Jason Constantine, who recently passed away, Peter Block, and even like Mark and Oren. Like, we had a lot of people to help us. So it was a little different, and we were given like a framing for what this is going to be. And the big one people forget about is the time twists that were such a big part of the early Saw movies. We were told what it is. It's happening concurrently. So I was like, okay, so we were given a lot of things.
What I'll say about Saw 4, I think of all the movies that I've made of the Saw franchise, everyone was the most hands-off on Saw 2. And then on Saw 3, they were around more and manipulating more. By the time Saw 4 came around, it felt oppressive. And I think the reason why is they realized they had a franchise. I think on Saw 2, they didn't know what it was. And in fact, there was a time that they were going to put Saw 2 straight to video. Yeah. I have a funny story. The early days of internet, I mean, not internet, but early days of, like, you didn't have a phone in your pocket all the time like we do now. I got BCC'd on an email from Greg Hoffman when my cut of Saw 2 came in, and I didn't realize.
Greg Hoffman is one of the producers of the first few films.
And it was a note from Lionsgate, and he was responding to it, where they basically said, "We have not figured out the release strategy. This may end up being a home video title." I didn't realize that I was BCC'd, and I responded, but I hit reply to all. So this went to everyone at Lionsgate. Hadley, earmuffs. I said, "Fucking ass clowns," and I hit send, and it went to everyone at Lionsgate. So I think it Saw 2, there still wasn't the idea this is a franchise. It was Saw 3 that I think they realized, okay, this is a cash cow. So by the time Saw 4 came around, to me, it felt a lot more oppressive than the first two had. But that was just me.
If it's Halloween, it must be Saw, right?
Well,
so
I mean, and looking at 4, have you watched it lately? So at one point, HBO Max had all of them, and I was driving my kid to this thing in Irvine like 3 times a week, and we watched all of them in a row. And so it was an interesting perspective having not watched them like that. And like Saw 4, there's a lot of stuff going on in that movie. And I remember because you were like trying to one up everything from 2, everything from 3. I mean, we had so much shit going on in that movie. And the end is like 90 minutes of like Hello Zep, like dun, 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 still going. And Kevin had to redo it again. Let's go again with Hello Zep. Like, it's wild.
My favorite Patrick story, and I talk about this on the commentary, but it just makes me happy. And I don't know if you remember this, but there was a character named Fisk who was one of the detectives. And
Fisk is here. He's back there.
Is he really?
No.
Oh. Okay, well, anyway, he came to me and was asking for character motivation.
He's still alive, by the way. Fisk is still alive.
He'll be the lead of the new Jason Blum spinoff series. But he came
Spoiler.
up to me and he goes, I really need some character backstory. And when you're on set, there's just chaos, and you don't have time to think a lot like that because you're already getting inundated with Tobin asking questions and everyone else. So he was like a background ancillary character, but he kept, I need to know. And we were about to shoot his biggest scene, and his biggest scene was like he had to walk from one side to the other. And then I go, you know what? You need to go talk to Patrick and Marcus. And I take him, and you guys were on set in front of your computers, and I take him in, and he goes, and I'll never forget this. He goes, I just really need to know my backstory. Like, what makes my character tick? And you look up from the computer, stone-faced. He looks up and says, Fisk can see farts. And then went right back down, and that was it. That was the direction.
And it pays off in Jigsaw. I don't know if you, yeah.
So when did you guys know that, Patrick, that 4, 5, 6, they kind of have it's the Hoffman trilogy, quadrilogy. There's a lot of them.
Right. Well, we were given Hoffman by Lee and Darren. So like he existed in 3, and so I mean, because I remember watching 3, going, why is Costas Mandalore in this scene? And like acting a little weird, right? Like he was like moving stuff around, and so we were given that, and like.
So he was a thread that was already there from 3 when
there
you
was a
started
lot.
working on 4.
I mean, that was certainly because the series is so serialized. Like there was tons of shit in there that was placed that we never even paid off by the time X came off. And there's still little threads. I mean, like the skin pieces. What happened with the skin pieces? Like we were always trying to do something with the skin pieces, like a skin map or something like that. And day one we'd always pitch it. This is where the skin pieces play off. And then by the end, they take it out. And so, yeah. But so we were given a lot of stuff, and Hoffman was a big part of it. So we knew he was coming back, and then like, okay, we had to build that out.
This is a good time to ask a question for the writers specifically, because, and I guess the directors can weigh in too, because I know, Darren, you had a lot of influence over how 3 and 4 were developed. But when you're starting with a Saw movie, when you're trying to figure out what the story is going to be, and I think this is a great way to bleed into 6 as well, is it trying to figure out what the giant kind of arcing theme is and what the ending is and working backwards? Because there's such intricate mysteries, too, on top of all the traps. Kind of where do you begin to tackle this beast?
You want me to start? So, I mean, with ours, me and Marcus, we usually would have a new character, right? So, and you know, some criticism of ours was that like it felt like we were in a bit of a pattern, like okay, there's going to be a new character, and then it's got to be connected to John in this type of way, and then this is how it's going to play off, and it's going to tie into the greater mythology because of this. And so, but ours, it was usually a new character that would come in, and then, and you're working backwards from that. And either they die, or they continue on, like some characters that we brought in continued on, or it was a twist, blah, 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 or they all died at the end. Like, you know, I think, no, some survived in 5, and some survived in 4, but like usually that main character was dead, to some criticism that people had. But like, yeah, so that's generally how it was done, you know?
For me, I came into the franchise after a long hiatus because they had done 1 through 7, and I was tasked, and Pete, my writing partner, was tasked with trying to figure out how to come back, but come back slightly differently. So really the hardest part for us in all 3 was what's the twist at the end, and you work backwards from there. Because ultimately Saw, the films, all of them, all 10 of them are magic tricks. Yeah. You're telling the audience at the beginning, you're saying, come watch our story, and we're gonna let you know this already because you saw the first one and the second one and the third one. The rug's gonna get pulled out from under you at some point in the final 4 minutes of the film. And you're daring them to guess. So you're saying, hey, this is gonna happen. We're gonna try to pull a magic trick out of our asses at the end, and let's hope that it works. And sometimes it worked for us, and sometimes it didn't. But that was always the starting point, was trying to figure out how to successfully pull the bunny out of the hat.
Yes, the twist was always hard.
I bet. Having developed with Mark,
I can attest it does work, and then sometimes not so much.
Yeah. Can I just say, in my opinion, every Saw movie is twice as difficult as the last to conceptualize, because not only is there an ever-increasing expectation of an amazing twist at the end, but your main character died in Saw 3, thanks to this guy. And so you're trying to figure out an organic way to incorporate John Kramer into the story without it just becoming ridiculous that so many things could have gone on between Saw 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. And that just is really hard to do.
So there's a moment, was it 4, or I think it was 5 maybe, or 4, when like...
You don't remember?
No, it blends together. It's I block it out. I've been through therapy, but like it was where we were late in the scripting stage. And so and this is so in Saw 2, yes, Saw 2, Danny Matthew. Oh, no, who's the boy? Young, is it Danny?
Yeah.
Danny, so like that twist that he was in the safe. He's in a safe place. That was late, right? That was really late. They came up with that twist, and so having that work so well, I think the executives and producers all thought, we'll figure out an amazing twist. And there's a moment, I think it was Saw 5, where one of the executives, this is like late at night, we're all sweaty and just tired, and it was Jason Constantine, rest in peace. He just looks at us and goes, we just need a great twist. And we're like, you know
Really?
what? Thank you. We should have thought of that before. So,
Do you know what became increasingly harder for me as well is that there was at the time something called House of Jigsaw, and it was a message board that everyone talked on if you were a fan of the Saw. Now it's Reddit. But the fans are so smart, and they would, the minute they saw a single image, they would pick it apart. If you did a trailer, they would take every single still image and put it on a board, and they would guess the twists, and then you're in the middle of shooting or editing, and they already know the twist, and we know we're earmuffs, sadly. We're fucked because they already know.
Did you guys ever have to change something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, for our side, like it was. It became a thing that you would either try to throw cold water on it by then putting something out that would immediately invalidate whatever they thought it was, but it became hard to try to keep the secret.
Yeah, I bet. So one of my favorite entries is Saw 6 because it has such a great theme. Yeah, hey, Saw 6 fans. Because I love the healthcare stuff. Like, thematically, it's so rich and it's so deep and it relates so perfectly to who John Kramer is. Patrick, Kevin, where did it come from? How did it kind of, what was the genesis for kind of digging in so specifically into that issue?
I mean, Kevin came on 6 and, I think wanted to do something that was very meaningful. And we came off of 5 and learned some things on there. One being like, okay, John Kramer, let's put him in the middle, in the center of the story, and how do we, branch the story out from him emotionally. And so it was John, and then I don't know, actually, it might have been Marcus or something, because somebody had the story of they had dental surgery, and then that led to something that the pre-existing condition that we now won't cover the brain tumor you have. And that was a real story, and so it just came from that, of being around the table, of thinking of what's an emotional story that we can place here. I don't know where the actual idea came from.
I don't remember exactly.
I'll take credit for it, and I was like, we need to really get down to it here. But it worked really well, just because it organically brought back John, and then we realized how everyone was responding to that. The fans were really responding to that because Tobin is so good, and you just want him to get as much as possible, but they killed him off, so it becomes this delicate way to how to do that. And so, yeah.
And Kevin, tell us about how you decided to make the jump to directing. How did that happen with Saw 6?
Well, it was directing is something I wanted to do from a young age, and wasn't really finding a way to get there, but did manage to start editing, which is a great career in its own right. But I think I made myself valuable enough in the course of editing the Saw movies that I was able to leverage it into. I made an agreement that if I would edit Saw 5, then I could direct Saw 6.
So extortion, essentially.
Extortion, yes.
Which is how everything gets done.
Well, it worked. It worked. I have a Saw 3D question for you, Kevin, because I don't know.
Everyone's favorite.
Yeah, his favorite.
Why? I mean,
well, here it is specifically. Are you aware that Tobin with a backwards cap on has become a meme?
The fellow kids? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, of course I am. And my beautiful wife Elizabeth is in that scene. She's the woman that gets what's his name autograph, and then she steps out of place at the book signing scene.
But ironically, that is what we did to DH Chris Rock. We put the backwards ball cap on him in Spiral, because that's what we do in Saw.
It's full costume. You don't know him now. You're like, who is this guy? Oh my God, it's Jigsaw.
I mean, some bad creative decisions were made by me on that film, and part of it was that I was legally forced to make it, and I still wanted to do the best job that I could. But when Tobin walked up to me just before the camera roll, and he's like, "What do you think of this?" I was like, "Great," and the rest is history.
It's also known as the final chapter. Just so put that in there.
That's right.
The final chapter.
That's
Final
right. Saw
chapter.
3D, the final chapter. So I guess here's a question. Did anyone actually think it was going to be the final chapter? I mean, there was a long hiatus, but
at the time. No, so originally there was supposed to be or at least two movies leading up to, why am I blanking? Carrie Eloise being alive. And so like the end of 7 was supposed to be the suggestion that he's alive, and then all of 8 was about how is he alive, what does that mean, and it was really going to be about him and Jigsaw and how they work together. But when 6 didn't open as well as it should because Paranormal Activity took half our business, Lionsgate, of course, panicked, and we took everything and put it into one movie. And we were rewriting. Oh, no, you were actually supposed to be doing Paranormal 2, but me and Marcus were rewriting it. I mean, it was madness when that happened because the studio they panicked. They were like, "What the hell happened? No one wants to see Saw anymore." Actually, while not realizing that, no, another movie came along that was just this, this bulldozer just changed everything, and we just got caught up in it,
And I can say that I petitioned pretty hard when we were making Saw 6 to have that be the final movie, and we actually were prepared to shoot Costas Mandylor dying in the head trap at the very end. They were renegotiating Costas's contract for any future Saws at that time, so even though we prepared to kill him in the movie, I realized later that was just leverage that they were trying to do when they were making his contract surprise. Anyways, even when we made Saw 3D, I said, well, this one is surely the last one. And they're like, no, we got lots of blood left in this franchise. And we finished the movie. The movie was edited and put to bed, and I went on vacation. And then they called, and I saw on the internet that they said that the title was going to be Saw 3D, The Traps Come Alive. And I'm like, that's the title of the movie? And
Amazing.
I made a lot of really angry phone calls, and they're like, finally and I sent them, the fan response, because
Did you call them the ass clowns and
no
just
one
copy the
seemed like
entire
no one
company?
was paying it. Anyways,
this guy again.
I showed them a fan response, and that made them change the title, and they changed it to the final chapter. So it's like, okay, I made the movie, and I would have edited it differently and shot different things if I'd known, but whatever. You guys have fun.
So for several years, I loved the tagline, if it's Halloween, it must be Saw. And then we went into kind of a desert where it wasn't Halloween, I guess, because there was no Saw. Until you, my friend, came in and kind of helped reboot things. Tell us about how you got in the mix on that.
So the beginning of my career was all kids television. So I wrote Sabrina the Animated Series. I wrote Avatar: The Last Airbender on Nick. I wrote, thank you.
So that naturally for Saw, you were a perfect candidate.
I was perfect. But I was obsessed with horror, like completely obsessed with horror from a young age, and was dying to get in. So much so that I wrote Piranha 3D on spec just to give it to a producer. I found out the guy who owned Piranha, and I was like, just give me 2 weeks, I'll write a script, just don't sell it yet. And luckily, that was my kind of entree. But by the time Saw came around, there were 150 writers in Hollywood that wanted that gig because it was such a huge gig. So it was part of a cattle call. I went in with, there were probably, I bet you, did you go in for Jigsaw? Or I mean, for Saw 8 at some point? Like, you never pitched on it at all?
We went in, we went in and it's a longer story. Let's just continue.
Yeah, so we went in, we pitched it, and we were turned down. As a matter of fact, one of the executives at Lionsgate fell asleep during our pitch, which is never a good sign for selling a movie. Like literally, I'm watching the person doze off while I'm talking about like ripping necks out of. Yeah, he's like falling asleep. All right, well this is not going well. But like 6 months later, Orion Koulis called up and said, hey, we haven't found somebody yet, and we didn't like that idea, but we like you guys. Can you come back in? We came in, completely new idea, turned down. 6 months later, Mark Burr calls up, hey, well, we like you guys, but we just didn't like that idea. We come on in again. Like the third time, the movie ended with the person busting out the door, and they're going through all of the things, and they bust out the door, and they find out they're on an oil derrick in the middle of the ocean, and they couldn't get away. We're like, that's going to be good. Nope, didn't want that either. So finally, like after 20 Saw pitches, finally we got the green light to do it, and we wrote the screenplay.
I remember I was developing something with Mark at the time, and he was really excited about the twist that some of the movie took place in the past. How did you guys stumble onto that idea?
Well, just like we were talking before, the beginning, the first thing you start thinking about is what's the twist? How are we going to fool the audience? So we knew that there was a consecutive movie done already, which was exciting, and we were like, all right, well, maybe to fuck Darren, earmuffs, Hadley, maybe we'll pretend that he's really alive. So the idea was hoping that the audience would believe, okay, maybe he's not dead, maybe he's alive, and kind of try to carry that as long as we could until we revealed that it was a multiple timeline.
And then, Peter, I feel like I've been sadly skipping over you a lot because we haven't gotten to you yet. But
I haven't been involved in anything.
Now it's your turn in the hot seat. It's your turn in the hot seat. You and your twin brother are very successful filmmakers and had made quite a few movies up to this point. And really, truly, I mean, outside of Darren kind of waltzing in with his Cinderella story, you guys were the first filmmakers to take on Saw that had an established track record, that were plugging into a real machine. So tell me a little bit about how that happened and what that was like.
Well, I mean, I had known James Wan and Lee Winnell for a long time. I mean, all Australians know each other, right? So we met before the first Saw movie, so I had that relationship with them. And Jason Constantine's name's come up a few times, and Jason was an executive at Lionsgate, and I thought all executives were like Jason, you know, really smart and loved filmmakers and loved story, and you know, that was the Hollywood standard. It's not. But Jason was the one who came to Michael and I and said, look, we got this script. We can't tell you what it is, but can you come into Lionsgate and sit in the boardroom and read this thing, and there'll be somebody watching you and you can't leave. And they gave us this script on red paper, and I don't know, they thought we were going to steal it and photocopy it or something.
If you see a script with red paper, it's really important.
Yeah, so we thought this must be some
the first time
big
I
deal.
ever saw one, it had Steven Spielberg plastered on top of it. So yeah, it's fancy stuff.
And I mean, we read it, and Michael and I were sitting in the room together. We kind of finished it at the same time and said, well, this is pretty fucking good, isn't it? And that was the beginning of it. And so we went down the road and started to pitch what we wanted to do with the film, which was, because we knew it was going to be a sort of rebuilding of the franchise, and they didn't want to do the same thing again. So we kind of pitched a version where we said, let's do it in a way that's more like the first film. We wanted to do it with less gore and less violence. That was our initial pitch, and we had come from movies that had a whole bunch of gore and violence, so I think they were a little bit confused by that. But we ultimately ended up working with Josh and Pete quite a bit on the movie, getting that to the place where everyone was happy, and there was a lot riding on it, and you know, Lionsgate were heavily involved, and the producers were heavily involved, and my brother and I had never stepped into something where it felt like we were kind of playing in somebody else's sandpit, so we had to be sort of respectful in a way, and make sure that we were still, you know, respectful to the other filmmakers, and we knew the fans wanted a certain type of movie, so we were respectful of that too. So it's very tricky. It's a very tricky thing to do, you know, and it was a lot of work to get it to where it got to.
I don't know if anyone has seen any of Peter's other movies, but if you haven't seen Predestination yet, it's freaking amazing, and shot on like no money, and it looks like it's an insane film. You need to watch it. It's got a great story, great twist, great acting. Also, Carrie's in it. Carrie, what's her last name?
Sarah Snook?
Sarah Snook.
Oh, Sarah Snook. Oh, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Also, Daybreakers, a very cool vampire movie well. Hey, Daybreakers fans, there you go. But you guys did some things to try to make it your own, because this really ostensibly was kind of a reboot. And so what were some of the things that you said, hey, here's where we can put our stamp on this movie?
Well, we initially wanted to go more outside, expand the world a little bit, be a little bit less contained. And I think part of the reason it was so contained was also for budget reasons. And when we started making the movie, we realized, yes, that's the reason why you don't go outside so much, because they didn't have the budget to do that kind of stuff. But we wanted to kind of make it a little bit less, just a little bit more user-friendly, I guess is the word, without losing all the horror aspects of it. It's very tricky. It's a very tricky thing to try and find that balance.
So after Jigsaw, a fateful phone call comes from one of our most beloved comic actors of all time. Josh, I think you got a phone call because you were working on a John Kramer prequel, and suddenly things changed.
Yeah, we were writing Saw X after Jigsaw, and I do have to say one of the reasons I think Saw X turned out so well was we were sitting on the script for years, because we had started it pre-Spiral, and then we got a call one day out of the blue from Mark and Oren saying, stay by your phone, Chris Rock's going to call you any minute now. And we're like, what? What? Who? And they're like, yeah, Chris Rock. He's a big fan of Saw. So we met with Chris, and he was a really great guy. And he basically came to us and said, let's make imagine what would happen if I was in the original Saw movie and it was my leg that was chained to the pole. How would that change the storyline? So that's how the whole thing started. And then we went down the long road of developing it with Darren and developing with Chris. And we were in a hotel room, listening to Chris do monologues of just riffing, and every single thing he says is hysterical. And it was actually hard to pull some of that out because it can't be a comedy. It's got to be a Saw film. But I'll let him talk about how to make
Darren,
that.
So when did you decide to lace back up the boots and go back into the world of Saw?
The second Chris Rock calls you. I mean, that's
a good call to get.
I mean, I have such conflicting feelings about Spiral because the idea was such a cool idea that I think we originally planned, because before I read Spiral, it was originally called Organ Donor, I read Saw X. And I knew that was coming, and originally I think the idea was they were going to come kind of one after another. And so we said, we made a determination, let's make a movie that exists in the Saw universe but is not Saw. It's its own thing, but it has DNA strands, but it is not Saw. And we said for the audiences that don't love that, a couple of months later, Saw X will come out, and they're going to get that. COVID derailed that entire thing, and so I think that we're left with this movie that I think fans were kind of confused of a little bit, because it is so different than Saw 2, 3, 4, any of the other ones that I done. I mean, both thematically, the tone, and I think that it left audiences wanting that thing that they had missed, which is John Kramer, and Amanda, and Costas, and all of those others. But when you're sitting with Chris Rock, I mean, the guy is a legend, and I mean, you can't be in a room with him without feeling this, like, I don't know, he's got this insane aura, like you're awestruck. And I was like, how can I say no to this? When am I ever going to get another chance to work with someone like Chris Rock?
And Sam Jackson, to be able to, writing the line, "You want to play games, motherfucker," was the most fun I've ever had at the computer keyboard. And I knew it was going to be in the movie. It as soon as you hear he's going to be in it, oh, that line's going in. But writing it down was the most fun I've ever had.
When did you guys know you got Sam? Was that while you were casting? When did that happen?
We kept hearing about it, but none of us believed it. Sam has a very unique thing that he won't talk to you until he shows up on set. So even up until the day that he was supposed to arrive, I didn't believe it. I'm trying to think when it was, but it had to have been in prep, because I have all of those images that we did. You had the image that I think in a pool, remember that? He originally died in a pool with a rat. And that was still in prep. So he had to have come on midway through prep.
When did you guys stumble on police corruption as kind of the big theme to dig into on this one?
Anytime you're making a movie, you're trying to find thematic elements that might be interesting. You don't want to pound the audience over the head with them. But just like we were talking about the earlier Saw film in the healthcare system, it meant something. It was something that you can latch on to and feel like you're not just getting sugar water. You're getting a little something more with substance. So as soon as we knew that we were going to do Chris being a cop, we knew that, all right, in order to kind of make it feel a little bit different, let's take on police corruption. And it was an easy decision once we made it. The hard part was balancing it so it didn't feel like we were going overboard with the police corruption stuff.
No, I think you guys did an awesome job, and I know it is a little bit kind of, it doesn't have John Kramer, but I think it's a hell of a movie, and I have a very special memory because I got to watch it at a friends and family screening with you both, and it was the first movie I saw in a movie theater after COVID, so that will always be a memory I have.
And I'm not meaning to necessarily push it along to talk to a cinematographer, but I will say that this is a good bridge to it, that I think the reason that Spiral worked, in my opinion, was Jordan, the cinematographer, came in with a completely different, unique look and palette that felt fresh to me. And I felt the same thing when I saw X, I knew nothing about it. I'd read the script years earlier, but I didn't know anything about it. And I think that it felt the look, the cinematography, it felt new and fresh, but also like a homecoming, because you're back with John Kramer, you're back with Amanda. So the reason I'm bringing that up is I think what worked very well about Spiral was the look. It felt different and unique, and the tone was different. And I felt the same thing going into Saw X. So I haven't talked to you about that, but I thought you did a great job on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think they did a great job on Saw X altogether. And so let's get into that since Darren brought it up. Josh, so you had been working on the script for a while with Pete. When did you kind of decide you wanted to tackle, I mean, I guess healthcare again, yes, but also really scams and people getting scammed? And what was the germ of that idea?
Well, the funny thing is, the way Patrick was just talking about, like, watching all the films together, we did the exact same thing. Every time we start writing, we start from the beginning and watch all the films in a row. So by the time we got to Saw X after Spiral, we sat down and watched all 9 Saw movies back to back, and you're bleary-eyed afterward. But the one moment, for me, my favorite moment of any Saw movie is when he says piranha, when he's looking at the fish, and he's a piranha. And that scene really stood out to us, and we were like, hey, we could take that and go after and use the healthcare system. We know that John, in the script, had tried to get help for his cancer in Scandinavia or something like
that. Yeah.
What was it? Scandinavia?
Yeah.
And so that's how we figured out, okay, we're gonna tackle phishing scams and all that kind of stuff. I still have, and one day I'll share it online. But one day I was at Costco. I was walking into Costco, and Tobin called me up. This is after he had already read the script and he was like, Josh, do you mind? I've got some ideas. Do you mind if I go over with them? And I'm on my cell phone, and I've got my computer next to me. I'm like, do you mind if I tape the phone call so I can remember what you say? So 3 hours later, my computer battery dies, and Tobin has spent 3 hours just talking about, like, and some really amazing stuff. Like, he had an idea for the idea of phishing and the idea of internet people phishing in order to scam people. And we wrote a big thing in the script about the idea of phishing and how you caught me and all of that. But some of it just got cut because there was just so much of it.
No, it's such a great movie. And Kevin, when did you decide you were going to step back into the director's chair and do Saw X?
It was Josh's encouragement, I think, to Mark and Oren to share the script with me, and I read it and let Elizabeth read it at the same time, and was on board from the moment I started reading it and saw where it was going, saw that it was tapping into Saw 6 and that great scene, and I had no doubt from the beginning that I wanted to do it.
Yeah, one of the things that I think the movie did brilliantly was tapping into the idea of making John Kramer the protagonist, because he's always been the secret weapon of the franchise. When did you guys kind of figure that out?
Well, when all these fuckers hated the first 2 movies that I made, I was like, what did we do wrong? And I was like, all right, well, we didn't have John in it enough, so fuck it, let's have a movie that's a John Kramer movie only. Like, there isn't a frame where he's not on camera. So it really was just unlocking a key of knowing what the audience wanted. They wanted John, so we gave him John.
And you did. Obviously, this is one of the first ones that famously did not really shoot in Toronto. It shot in Mexico. Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit about kind of moving the franchise down there and working with Nick to create the look?
Yeah, it was, to me, a really pleasant turn of events when we decided fairly close to the beginning of production to go from Eastern Europe, where the script was written for, to Mexico City. Super excited about it. Met Nick for the first time as we were looking for a DP, and brought him and an American production designer down there, but everybody else was a Mexican native, And we changed the script to take advantage of all the cool aspects of Mexican culture that we were able to incorporate into the script. And then you were able to find an amazing camera crew, and we got footage that blew my mind, and I think it was very true to what Saw used to be, but also went a lot further.
Yeah, I felt like what was so exciting, by the time I was brought on, the film was already set in Mexico, and I had shot a movie in Mexico before, and so I was actually able to work with a gaffer I'd already worked with. I was working with a first AC that I'd already worked with, and we brought in a bunch of incredible technicians, and so we were able to take advantage of the scope of a place like Mexico. We were able to take advantage of this beautiful glass factory and turn it into a place that we completely tented, and we controlled the lighting inside of there so we could shoot during the day and make it feel like night. And we were able to look at it as a place that if John Kramer spent all of this time developing these specific traps to test the moral dilemmas of each of these characters, what would he have done also with the lighting? And so, this man who wears a robe, who has a very heightened kind of priest-like responsibility, we were able to take that and play with that and sort of build this world. So it was a really great place to be able to do that.
So Nick, since we have you here, yes, round of applause for. Since we have you here, we have a DP here, we have 3 Saw directors. I can only imagine, as someone who has made movies myself, when you were doing set pieces, you just watch the day tick away. But you still have to make it beautiful. You still have to light it. Tell me about the rub between shooting all the pieces you need, lighting it beautifully, and making these traps come to life.
So Kevin and I spent a lot of time in pre-production talking about the intent of the film and talking about what the style of the film would be. And I think there was this mutual understanding that the film would be there'd be pervading darkness. We would embed the world kind of in a brooding darkness where there'd be practical lighting. We would take advantage of the rusty, poisonous greens, all these sort of colors that we were responding to. And so I think I approached the film from the headspace of John Kramer. How do we put the audience into the subjective experience of Jigsaw? And what kind of person is that? And so we were actually looking at Saw 1 and 2 and 6, but specifically, how do we take the color palette of those movies and bring them to life in this film in a unique way? So for me, a lot of that lighting was, we're taking the audience on this journey of hope, where John thinks that he's going to be able to survive. And then eventually in this sort of, this moment where he discovers everything that he's been hoping for is dashed, we sort of begin our descent into darkness. We begin our descent into hell. And so we were able to actually build out this warehouse with a lot of practical lighting that we could control. It was all LEDs. We had them housed inside of fixtures that I worked with our production designer, Anthony Stabley, in order to make it a part of the art of the space. So we were shooting in a very 360 kind of way. Some of these days we're doing 50, 60 setups in the day in order to move very swiftly. But part of my thinking was, let's build walls of light so that if we're looking in one direction, we can shutter lights on the other side of the room, and we're able to create this kind of tonality. And part of the beauty of Saw is every time you start to soften the light up and you glamorize the characters in these intense, brutal kind of sequences, it actually stops feeling like Saw. And so we were building 3-dimensional lighting where it's, we have those color palettes in the background, in the midground, and then in the foreground, we're kind of playing with that. So the movie moves in the first act from something that's very beautiful and Rembrandt and kind of side light and top light that's, actually very beautifully lit. And then it moves into these kind of brutal, toppy sort of light, but then we have the depth in the background where we're bringing in the kind of sodium vapor, that sort of, dirty, poisonous mercury green, and we're kind of bringing that in. And then each trap, we wanted to have a unique look. And part of that was when John starts the trap, lights kick on, and when John ends the trap, lights shut off. So the room takes a revolving tone, and I didn't want it to feel like the film was one look that we just kind of live in. I wanted it to evolve and to become dramatically a part of the filmmaking. So, and also comes back to John's point of view.
And I think you guys really nailed it. I know we are just out of time, but I do want to just say one last thing. Kevin, obviously, this is the last Saw movie in kind of this era of Saw movies. You kind of got to put the definitive stamp on it. Like, how does that feel?
Great. No, it's I started my career with Saw, and I've directed other films, but none of them really made a blip like the Saw movie. So if this is what I have done with my life filmically, then I feel pretty proud about it. I want to keep going with Saw. We spent a lot of time. Trying to put together a Saw 11 concept that Marcus and Patrick came up with. Spent a lot of time on it and a lot of grief there. But I know that now that the series has passed on to other ownership, that something great is going to come out of it. I don't know who exactly is going to helm it, but it's going to be great.
Well, I think I speak for everyone here, and I just want to say thank you guys for all your hard work over all the years, for making so many amazing movies, and for being here to talk about them today.
Thanks a lot, Joe.
Thank you guys. Thank you from Darren and Josh Make a Movie. We're so excited. Please follow the show at djmakeamovie.com. And for everyone in the audience that wants to come and ask a question, we had meant to have questions, but Joe did such a great job with them. We'll answer them over there on a table. We've got some posters, other stuff. Come by, say hi, give us a hug, give us something. Love you guys. Thank you all.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Please give the show a follow, and if you could leave a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, each post helps us reach more listeners like you. Another way to support us is to join the crew at djmakeamovie.com. We'd love to hear from you. Follow and join the conversation at DJ Make a Movie on all social platforms. Let's make a movie together.
Darren and Josh Make a Movie, Season 1. Hosted by Darren Bousman and Josh Stolberg. Produced by Addison Marshall. Email the team at djmakeamovie@gmail.com. To watch on video and enjoy all the visuals you may have missed listening to the audio version of the show, subscribe to the Darren and Josh Make a Movie YouTube channel. Thank you for joining.
Oh, yes. There will be blood.
No, it's not creepy at all.
I run a house with 50 crazy bitches.
Taught them to survive.
This is real life!
You're hallucinating.
It is real.
This is okay.
That girl really needs to learn to keep her mouth shut.
A man with each other.
That is disgusting. Is that a fucking piranha?
They took my penis!
They took my penis! Oh, I wish I hadn't seen that.
You haven't seen anything yet.
You want to play games, motherfucker?
Citrate comes in a little glass vial.
Hallelujah!
Darren and Josh Make a Movie.
Cut, Casper. That's a wrap.